There's a bewildering array of bike chain lubricants available, but there has been a lot of noise around wax, particularly in the pro field. It's supposedly faster and requires less maintenance, but let's see if those claims are true. Your chain is the hardest working mechanical component on your bike. It's exposed to the elements. It transmits your power through the pedals to the rear of your bike. And yet many of us, myself included, take them for granted. This is my bike, this is my chain, and I'll admit, I don't always clean my chain, even after some wet rides. It's looking pretty bad right now. It's even got some rust on it, which is really quite embarrassing. Now, we all know this is not good. Not only should we be cleaning our chains down, we should be treating them with some sort of lubricants so that they run more efficiently. And there are tons of these different lubricants to choose from these days, but the one that we're going to be focusing on today, and you've probably heard a lot about in recent years, is wax. So Optimize, a brand specializing in creating wax lubricants, has supplied me with a bunch of their waxy products to explore this area. And the question we all have, is it worth it? And is it right for you? A wax has almost become commonplace in the pro cycling and triathlon world now. And the main reason being that obviously it reduces friction, but also it's incredibly durable. I mean, for example, a standard chain lubricant lasts around 200 kilometers, whereas wax can last as much as 800 to 1,000 kilometers. And also not to mention that dirt and debris doesn't stick that well to wax, therefore reducing that friction further, and also the wear and tear on your components and parts. And this is the main draw for many keen cyclists. It's the improved efficiency over a longer period of time. Now, the difference or friction difference between a wax chain and an ordinary lubricant chain is pretty small. I'm well aware we are talking marginal gains here, but in theory, as a ride goes on or over multiple rides, the gap between the two and the friction difference between the two will open up a bit. Again, albeit fairly small. In fact, I sort of wanted to see if I could show this. So whilst at Silverstone recently, we tagged a bit of testing on their pedal efficiency rig. We found just over a 2-watt difference between a used wax chain and a used ordinary lubricant chain. And I actually have those two chains here. So I've got the wax chain here and the dirty chain. Now, I can visibly see the difference between the two. You may be able to or not. I can actually feel the difference between the two chains. The actual dirty chain just feels like it doesn't move as smoothly, and you can see it's picked up some of the dirt and debris off the road, whereas the wax chain looks pretty good. Now, I do appreciate this isn't perfect science, but it's definitely given us some pretty good food for thought and a little insight into this area. Well, if it's so great, why do we not all do it? Well, talking from personal experience here, the main reason is time. Time we perhaps don't have. Now, a standard drip lubricant takes about 1 minute to apply, whereas hot wax immersion, well, it's a little bit more involved. In fact, let's quickly show you. Okay, so if you don't want to see or learn how to wax a chain, you can actually just simply scoot forward in this video to the next chapter, but you might want to hang around and you might learn something here and it might help you decide whether you want to wax a chain. So first and foremost, obviously remove your chain from the bike, dismantle it. So here is mine. You might want to give it a quick pre-clean. The next stage, now you've got a couple of options here. You might want to pop this into a jar like I have here. You'd add a bunch of degreaser, close that up, and you give it a good shake. You might want to get it out occasionally, give it another sort of spray down or brush off, and then add some more degreaser. I'm actually really lucky in this case. Obviously, Optimizer's provided me and supplied a ultrasonic cleaner. So I'm going to be popping my chain in there along with, I've already got it pre-filled with water. I'm going to add around 10% of degreaser to that and popping the chain in. This process should be repeated at least twice with fresh degreaser until the liquid remains relatively clear. Okay, so I've got a very nice and clean chain now. Now you should actually do the same thing with the cassette and also actually just get a nicely soaked cloth of degreaser and just clean down the chain rings, ready for this nice chain to go back onto. Now the next step with this is actually just to leave this to air dry, and then we want to rinse it with water to allow the wax to actually adhere to that nicely. Okay, now on to the waxing. So to do the waxing, you want to put your wax into a small pot. We want to get that wax entirely melted. Now, I've got the fancy pants wax cooker here from Optimize, so that's going to make it nice and easy. I'm using their fastest wax, the graphene wax. Now, graphene is a single L platelet of carbon atoms. In very simple terms, it's very slippery and very fast. And there's also a graphite wax. Graphite consists of several carbon atom layers, and these atomic layers slide against each other with little energy. I would suggest threading the chain onto a wire. This will make it easier to remove later. A nice bit of forward planning there. Place the chain in the pot at 90 degrees Celsius. The chain and wax should reach the same temperature. Then turn off the stove after 2 minutes as soon as 90 degrees Celsius is reached. This will ensure the wax and the chain reach the same temperature. Now we wait. Leave the chain in the pot and allow the wax and chain to cool down. At around 60 degrees Celsius, a thin skin slowly forms. You should then remove the chain. It's important to move the chain as little as possible. Carefully hang it over the wax bath. The heat from the bath actually ensures a better and more gradual cooling process. Now you should move or break the chain after 2 hours, install the chain, and then ride. No, this bit is actually really important. The chain must be run in for 50 kilometers at the very least. Well, all in all, that's taken me about an hour to do that. Now, the actual process of waxing the chain didn't take that long at all. Most of the time was just taken up waiting for the wax to cool and to set on the chain. So in total, fairly time consuming, but on the flip side of that, it lasts much longer, it's faster, and I felt pretty darn pro doing it. Now, there is no right or wrong answer here. I know that some love the idea that once done, a wax chain can be left with very little concern over a long period of time and continue to perform, whilst others maybe aren't so concerned about those small marginal gains and, well, just prefer the ease of a drip lubricant. If I'm honest, I'm probably in the latter camp, but having actually seen the performance difference between the two, when it comes to a race, I think it would pain me not to go with a hot wax and give away some of those valuable watts. But there is also another option. Actually, there's a couple of options. So you could just buy yourself a pre-wax chain like Optimizer offer. Actually, I know a lot of people do this before an event. I probably should have told you about this earlier, shouldn't I? And then also, you can get a liquid drip wax. So Optimize offer this also in graphene and graphite. This is as quick and easy to apply as your standard drip lubricant. Durability wise, also going to last around 200-300 kilometers. So not quite as long as your hot wax immersion durability. It's faster and reduces friction more than your standard lubricant, maybe not quite as much as a hot wax. So there you have it. I can't obviously tell you which is right for you, of course. Ollie Bridgeford from GCN is hot waxing chains alongside his dinner every night, whereas I'm probably more inclined to go with your liquid drip wax. Still get some pretty sweet gains, but also save myself a bit of time. Let us know what you prefer, whether you're actually already waxing, whether you're tempted now by wax, be that hot wax or liquid wax. Let us know in the comments section down below. Thank you again to Optimize for providing all the goodies to allow us to explore this topic. If you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, give it a like. We'll see you next time.